Hey, welcome to the Yawcast, everyone. I am Brant Fowler, and I am recording this pre-intro for the next few videos, quote unquote, that you're going to see on this channel, because when I was recording the inaugural podcast episode of the Yawcast, the video just basically messed up. All the video footage was complete garbage and unusable. I couldn't use any of it. There was like little parts of it that I probably could have clipped out, but wouldn't have been worth it. So unfortunately, these first few are going to be audio only. So I did want to include a video portion, hence this preamble, if you will, that's going to accompany each of these four clips that you're going to be seeing over the next few days. And so basically, this first episode is all about WrestleMania weekend. I start off, the first one is going to cover Smackdown and NXT Stand and Deliver. The next one is going to be night 1, then night 2, and then Raw. And they're all going to have this preamble before them. And in the future, I hope to record the podcast as video and kind of split that up and do like shorts on the YouTube channel, and then eventually the entire episode I'll release later. But the entire audio episode you can find on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from right now. The link is in the description below, and you can check us out at the Allcast across social media. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And all podcasts, awepodcast.com, will take you to this YouTube channel. Right now I'm working on a website, or I may just direct it to the audio version. I'm not sure yet, but probably a website so you can get to both the video and the audio. But in the future, again, there's going to be video elements. I apologize that you're not going to get to see my pretty face for this one, for the most part. But hopefully you enjoy the audio content. And please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and come back for more episodes of the Yawcast. So without further ado, here is the first clip. Thanks. And the second and the third and the fourth, I guess, since I'm putting this in front of all of them. Here's the clip. Bye. You are listening to the Yawcast, the most awesome wrestling podcast you've listened to in the past few seconds. Hello, my awesome friends, and welcome to Aftershock Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, or as I like to call it, the Yawcast. I'm Brant, and like you, I'm a wrestling fan. So let's talk about some wrestling. All right. So this episode, this inaugural relaunching episode, is all about WrestleMania 38, leading up to it with Smackdown and NXT Stand and Deliver, and following it with the Raw after WrestleMania. So we're going to talk about all of that. So let's get into some WrestleMania talk, and we're going to start with WrestleMania Smackdown. So the only thing I really have to say about this show, and this is of course the go-home show before WrestleMania, before all the events of WrestleMania weekend. And I think right after SmackDown was when the Hall of Fame happened. I did not watch the Hall of Fame. I did see clips here and there, Undertaker's speech, the Steiners, which I think is really cool. I'll be talking about them a little bit more later. Yeah, so we'll be talking about that. But starting with SmackDown, interesting thing about SmackDown is two matches that you would think would be on the kickoff shows for WrestleMania took place on SmackDown. That is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and the Intercontinental title match. So the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal doesn't need to be on the main card, right? So, it's really a platform to propel like superstars that need like that extra thing to make them stand out, this extra thing that they can latch onto their name. Oh, the winner of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal kind of gives them that edge that they can use to carry themselves to the next level, like Baron Corbin. So this year, Madcap Moss is the winner. The interesting thing is who he eliminated, which was Finn Balor. It came down to those two, and he eliminated them. Now, other superstars that were in it were superstars that were not on the WrestleMania card, like the Viking Raiders, Tozawa, Reggie, R-Truth, Shanky, and Commander Aziz, and Apollo Crews, I think, was in it. Other competitors like that. And so, why didn't you have it on the pre-show? Then we have the Intercontinental title match, which is Ricochet defending against both of the Los Lotharios, Humberto and Garza, and he defeats them. Kudos to Ricochet. Congrats on the win. I'm just curious, again, why this isn't on a kickoff show. And the thing about it is, there were no matches on the kickoff shows. You had 4 hours worth of kickoff shows combining Saturday and Sunday nights, and there was not a single match on either one. And I get them not being on the main card. Those 2 nights were stacked. 4 hours of content each night, so 8 hours of a WrestleMania. And maybe they didn't want to exhaust the audience, but it seems weird that these superstars were relegated, and these big matches that are typically synonymous with WrestleMania were relegated to Smackdown. And there wasn't even a U.S. title match. So it's a little confusing why they didn't put something on the kickoff show. They could have taken both of these matches and put one on each night, just have one match to kind of, lead into WrestleMania. But they chose not to do that for whatever reason. So the only other thing I'll say about SmackDown is that Finn Balor wrestles twice on this show. He wrestles in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and loses to Madcap in the final 2. And then he comes back and teams with Shinsuke and Rick Boogs, I believe, against Austin Theory and the Usos in the main event and loses. More on Finn later. Okay, so Finn was not at WrestleMania. This was his WrestleMania moment. It was WrestleMania SmackDown. Your United States champion, Finn Balor, very decorated champion, first ever Universal champion, not on WrestleMania. Okay, we'll circle back to that. So that was WrestleMania SmackDown, and now we get into NXT Stand and Deliver. So this took place Saturday afternoon. I think it was 12 p.m. Eastern time, so it was 11 a.m. my time as I watched this. And they did have a kickoff show or a pre-show, and Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez, who are back together, defeated Toxic Attraction and became your women's tag team champions, NXT women's tag team champions. So that's cool. I did not see the pre-show, but I did see the clips on the main show, and they talked about that. So speaking of women, we had the NXT Women's Championship match on NXT Stand and Deliver. It was later on in the night, day, I guess. It was later on in the event. But we had Mandy Rose, who is the champion, defending against Cora Jade, Io Shirai, and Kaylee Ray. And my question is something that Cora Jade does not want to hear anymore, according to Twitter, is she ready for this spotlight? And she's still a little green, right? She's young. She's still learning. There were some missteps here and there. There were some with Braun Breaker as well. We'll talk about that later. But all in all, I think it was a good showing. I don't think the Destroyer on the apron is indicative of being ready, but it was really cool that she pulled it off. It shows some skills, some control, mostly on the part of Kaylee Ray, but still impressive move. And Cora Jade has the people in the palm of her hand. She's got it. She's got something. She's got that extra thing. I love her to death. I don't know. I'm kind of glad she didn't win the title just yet, but I do see her as kind of and I can make this comparison with Braun Breaker too, to a degree. We'll talk about that when we come to Raw, but I could see her having that kind of journey like Randy Orton, where Randy Orton got the title really young and he wasn't ready for it. And he didn't even really know who he was as a competitor yet, not fully. And it was a short reign, lost it, found himself, and now is one of the most decorated champions of all time, right? So I could see Cora Jade on that journey, but I think she's at that stage where Randy Orton was when he was in Evolution. He's just not quite ready, but he's almost there. You know what I mean? So anyway, it was a great match. When you put Io Shirai in a match, you're going to have beautiful sequences and everything. Kaylee Ray is really good in a different way. She's a very different style. And you had 4 completely different styles here. You had quintessential wrestler or sports entertainer with Mandy Rose. You had high-flying, skillful action with Io. You had this brawler mentality with Kaylee Ray. And then you had this spunky, I'm going to pull out everything I can with Cora Jade. So you had 4 very contrasting styles. It was a solid match. Mandy Rose successfully defended her title, so she is still your NXT Women's Champion, unlike her compatriots in Toxic Attraction, who lost their titles, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, unfortunately for them. And speaking of great matches, this next match stole the entire show of NXT Stand and Deliver. That is the ladder match for the North American Championship. It was a 5-way ladder match. Carmelo Hayes defending his title against 4 other guys, including Cameron Grimes and Santos Escobar from Legado del Fantasma. You had a bunch of people around ringside. You had Grayson Waller's bodyguard. You had the other members of Legado del Fantasma there. Elektra Lopez was there. So much going on, but the spots were insane. Grayson Waller, it looked like he freaking broke his arm as he crashed through the ladder trying to do an elbow drop. Obviously, with a ladder match, you have a lot of false finishes. Almost there, can't quite get there. But ultimately, Cameron Grimes pulled out that win, and it was beautiful. And much to the chagrin of Carmelo, who did miss this time around, unfortunately, but he usually doesn't. And all 5 of these guys were phenomenal, and all 5 of them deserved to be there. And if this had been on WrestleMania, it would have stole the show, whatever night it was on. This was a phenomenal match. Absolutely. Best match of NXT Stand and Deliver, hands down. And that's not to take away from any of the other matches. We had a great showing in the tag team match, which I think was a 4-way with MSK pulling out and finally getting their titles back. MSK is always fun to watch. So all those guys with those contrasting styles as well put on a great show. Tommaso Ciampa, can't go through NXT Stand and Deliver without mentioning Tommaso Ciampa. Had a match against Tony D'Angelo, kind of passed the torch to him. And in the aftermath, he got, standing O. Triple H came out and hugged him and, went face to face with him as Tommaso heads off to the main roster. But here's my question about that. And this is something that has bugged me for a while with NXT, and I don't understand it. And it's that anytime somebody leaves NXT to go to the main roster, they lose. It's usually a champion, and they usually drop the title, which it makes sense that they would not carry the title with them to NXT. Kevin Owens was that exception, right? He showed up on Raw with the NXT title, challenged John Cena, and had a great match. But this was it's a weird practice to me to lose your match when you're going out on top and you're called up to the main roster. Why would you lose? That doesn't make logical sense to me, and I know I'm trying to make logical sense out of WWE booking, and apologies there, but that is the truth. Yeah, it's a little strange that you would have them lose before they elevate. It doesn't make sense to me. I understand passing the torch and everything, but there's a way to do that without every single person exiting NXT losing. Just my thoughts, my personal opinion on that. Take it for what you will. But we also had Gunther, who is in the best shape of his life. I prefer Walter, but his name was Gunther, however you pronounce it now. And he looked fantastic. He had a solid match with LA Knight. Not the best match of either one of these guys, but it was a solid showing with Gunther coming out on top. And then you have Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker challenging for his former glory with the NXT Championship against Dolph Ziggler, who pulls out the tricks, has Robert Roode at ringside, pulls the turnbuckle pad off, and Braun Breaker loses. And there were a couple little missteps, a little inexperience showing through with Braun, but overall he's really good. They refer to him as Rick Steiner's son, which I thought was fantastic, and I'm like, I wonder if they'll do this once he's like on the main roster. If he shows up on Raw or whatever, are they gonna reference that? Are they gonna show that he is actually a Steiner? And more on that when we get to the Raw portion. But I am thankful that they did mention it here, that he is Rick Steiner's son, and he made his name for himself on his own. But there's no denying that man is a Steiner. He sounds like Scott, wrestles like Rick. I mean, just. He's fantastic, and he's a star in the making. I made the comparison with Randy Orton and Cora Jade earlier. You can make the same comparison here. Braun Breaker got that title really early on in his NXT run and lost it really early in his title run. And he knows who he is, though. That's the one difference. He really knows who he is. there's nothing changing that. You just got to get more experience, more ring time under his belt, and he's going to be a huge star. He's a future Universal Unified World Champion, whatever they're going to call that title. That's his future. I think he's that good. He's just not quite there yet, and unfortunately, this day was not his day. But that's NXT Stand and Deliver. Again, the standout match was that ladder match. It was just amazing to watch. Ladder matches are always a spectacle, but when you get 5 super talented wrestlers or performers in that ring and they're pulling off spots with great fluidity, great timing, and building a story throughout the whole thing, and it's not so obvious, they're setting this up for that. That's when those matches really, really stand out, and this is one of those. These guys are going to all go to that next level, I think. All 5 of these guys have that potential. So that's NXT Stand and Deliver.
Hey, do you like podcasts? Do you like comic books? Do you like podcasts about comic books? Then you should go check out Comic Book Weekly, Comic Frontline's podcast where we share our top 5 comics of the week, talk about the latest news in the comic industry, interact live with our viewers each and every Tuesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Check us out at youtube.com/comicfrontline or search for Comic Book Weekly on YouTube. Hey, would you like to get a free comic book based on All Elite Wrestling? And in the process, get more updates about what's coming from the Allcast? You can do so by going to subscribepage.com/freeAEWcomic, and just by signing up for the Allcast newsletter, you'll get a free fan comic from comic creator Todd Black. Check it out at subscribepage.com/freeAEWcomic today.
Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the Allcast, the inaugural relaunch of the Allcast. And going forward, I don't know what the exact schedule of the show is going to be, but I will keep you updated. You can follow social media at the Allcast across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for updates on that, or you can check out allpodcast.com, which currently will take you straight to this YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit that notification bell as well. So with that said, until next time, keep watching wrestling, and at the risk of stealing from The Miz, stay awesome.